Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Emag, your weekly news program. Here are the headlines of what's coming up into the magazine. News from Senegal, first cabinet reshuffle of Prime Minister Abdoul Mbaye's government. Not less than 7 ministers have left the team. Away in the United States of America, the Hurricane Sandy has come up to play its role in the electoral campaign. Our guest this week, Professor Ousmane Sen, specialized in American culture and political issues, will explain us how he sees these elections. News from Senegal, a current issue in our political system. After less than 7 months of ruling, Abdoul Mbaye's government has recorded its first cabinet reshuffle. 7 ministers have been dismissed and have been replaced by an equal number of newcomers, the first turmoil under President Macky Sall. This is a comment by Laire Diop.
The cabinet reshuffle announced on Monday saw the departure of Interior Minister Mbaye Ndiaye and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Alioune Badara Cissé. Both of them were seen as close supporters of President Macky Sall. The former Interior Minister is replaced by retired General Pathé Seck, while his Foreign Affairs counterpart is replaced by Mankeur Ndiaye, the current ambassador of Senegal in Paris. Among the other changes to the cabinet is the nomination of former journalist Abdou Latif Coulibaly as Minister for Good Governance and the spokesman of the government. Abdoul Aziz Mbaye, who formerly worked as the director of the President's cabinet, has become Minister of Culture, a department now separated from tourism, which constitutes a new portfolio linked to leisure and managed by Youssou Ndour. Mary Teuw Niane has been named Minister of Higher Education, and Mbagnick Ndiaye is in charge of sports, replacing Malick Gakou, who is now at the head of the Department of Trade, Industry and Informal Sector. Thierno Alassane Sall, former director of the Regulatory Authority for Posts and Telecommunications, is the new Minister of Infrastructure and Transport, replacing Mor Ngom, who has been appointed director of the President's cabinet. Mrs. Adama Ndione is the minister in charge of territory planning and local institutions, a portfolio previously managed by Cheikh Bamba Dièye, who is now the Minister of Communication, Telecommunications and Digital Economy. Abdoulaye Baldé is the new Minister of Agriculture and Rural Equipment, whereas Benoît Sambou has become Minister for Youth, Employment and the Promotion of Civic Values. The other ministers are Mamadou Talla, who is in charge of vocational training, apprenticeship and handicrafts, Khadim Diop, the Minister for Flood Zones Reconstruction and Planning, and Mrs. Seynabou Gueye Touré, who has been appointed Minister attached to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of Senegalese abroad. The government has grown from 25 to 30 ministers. According to the Prime Minister, Abdoul Mbaye, the cabinet reshuffle is meant to ensure efficacy and efficiency in the running of government affairs.
Laire Diop, thank you. And now from politics, we move on to music, and it is to discover a new talent of Senegalese young musicians. Modjen Fall, also known as Flexi Djily, a gifted and talented rap singer who has come to pay us a visit here in RS1 to tell us about his story from Africa to Europe and from painting to music.
Flexi Djily because I found myself flexible, doing a lot of things like playing music, doing basketball, playing football, and such, you know. So it's like a resume of what I'm doing. My life was like the life of all Senegalese people, like hoping, wailing, complaining about the hard life we had, you know. So we wanted to improve our lives. Yeah, I went in Germany first to join my father, who was a military, and he had 2 years of stage. He was working with the German in 2000, and I reached out to him, and then when he came back from Germany, he told me, "Oh, I know you don't want to go back in Africa, so there's an opportunity for you to follow your dreams," and I went to Italy.
And
then I did the life of a modu, like we say in immigration, you know, hustling hard, trying to have money, trying to have a job, and trying to have a better life. And I did music as well.
Okay.
I bought my first regular guitar in Italy, my keyboard, I bought it in Italy. People knew me out there as a musician. I had to work to have my own money because in Europe nobody gonna pay nothing for you. Okay. You have to handle everything by yourself. So I've been working, and after I finished my job, I would go to some pubs, some bars, and perform some music. You know, let the people know I'm a musician.
Sandy. For sure, this name says something to you. The famous hurricane which has upset the Caribbean coast and the eastern United States of America. The natural disaster has occurred at a time when the United States of America were getting ready to their presidential elections. This is Hamidou Diop's comment on an electoral campaign questioned by an unpredictable phenomenon.
The floods caused by strong rains fallen this last week in Niger caused 31 deaths in the country, according to a provisional appraisal by the United Nations. Also, nearly 100,000 people, disaster victims, underwent head on the exceptional rising of the Niger River. And the results? Nobody speaks about it, except some African media. And with the Hurricane Sandy, it is true that alarms was to be launched since, but the breadth given to this fact was almost excessive. On this blow, during at least 2 weeks, everyone has the eyes directed on the United States, forgetting even the other countries which underwent the same fate as the USA with Sandy. When the countries will know that all human life has the same value. With the Hurricane Sandy, useless to say that assessment which caused at least 100 deaths is heavy, but compared to the drama of Niger. During at least 10 days, the African media was focused on a fact which was not there and kept on bombarding African and Senegalese in particular of information from the other side of the Atlantic. However, speaking about floods, the cities as Lagos are in the future under the threat, but nobody speaks about it. Today, some must be disappointed a little of these some deaths, these some torn of trees, these some flooded car parks, these some power cuts, and regret especially that the world turned around New York during 2 days exclusively.
Hamidou Diop, thank you for this comment, and this is a good transition for us to talk about the elections in the United States of America with our very special guest this week, Professor Ousmane Sen. He's a teacher at the English department of Cheikh Anta Diop University and the director of West African Research Center work. He sheds light about the Sandy phenomenon and tells us to what extent it has influenced the electoral campaign.
You know, the election process in the United States is approximately the same from one presidential election to the other, but you know, each exercise does have its distinguishing features. For this one, we can say that this is the first time a black president is running for a second term. 4 years ago, it was the first time a black president was, you know, elected, and a black candidate was on the stage. The other distinguishing feature is that this election is just coming in the midst of a very serious economic crisis in the United States. And if you realize all the debates between the three candidates, whether they initially had as a topic, you know, international relations, usually would fall back on the economic issue. The other issue is that you got Hurricane or Storm Sandy coming in and blowing everything away, and reminding the two candidates and all Americans and the rest of the world that Mother Nature can be very angry and Mother Nature can be very furious when she is not taken into account.
This time you're going to tell me about the 3 debates which have been organized before the elections. So what analysis can you make?
Well, I would like first to say hats off to Romney, because, you know, President Obama is a very clever debater. And of course, there are certain times when Barack Obama criticized him and hinting that he did not know much about what was going on, particularly when they talked about reforming or increasing the power of the American military. Obama told him that they were no longer in the Cold War period, and the strategy he was talking about is no longer valid because of the circumstances under which the U.S. Army is operating right now. The other distinguishing feature of a debate is that no matter what topic was assigned, inevitably the candidate will fall back on the economic issue. So until Sandy, knocked at the door, the major issue was the economy.
Something unpredictable happened, meaning the Hurricane Sandy, which has a little bit influenced the electoral campaign and the speeches by the two candidates. So what kind of analysis can you make about the influence of the Hurricane Sandy in the electoral campaign?
We're not talking about one man lashing all this fury on the United States, just like September 11. It's not the case. It is Mother Nature coming and knocking at the door and saying, you guys tend to forget me, I'm not happy, right? Remember me, and put me on high profile on your policies and on your decisions. It can influence the result of the election exercise in the sense that maybe people will be watching. What did the president do in the face of this crisis? Did he handle the crisis properly? And based on what I heard and what I saw, the argument is President Obama handled the case correctly.
Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York, asked Obama not to come to visit him at New York. Paradoxically as well, the governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, who is a Republican, congratulated Obama for having well handled the
Yeah,
crisis.
absolutely.
So any comments?
Yeah, Christie liked a lot what Obama did. And I think Obama visited, that part of the United States. I think it's a good point for Obama. But the statement of that governor certainly proved that Obama preferred to manage to handle properly the critical situation born from Sunday's devastations. Sure. But what happened with the mayor of New York City is a revealer as to the strength of the American democracy. Imagine one mayor, Barack Obama asking the mayor, Mr. Mayor, I would like to visit New York to express my sympathy to the population. And he said, Mr. President, thank you very much. I can handle the situation. So he declined. So this, of course, shows that politics is permanently some sort of antagonism, some sort of opposition.
Another important point, politically speaking, is the public opinion polls in the United States of America. What is their influence
the result
for
of
the elections?
polling agencies, the results given by polling agencies in the United States are taken very seriously by all candidates, by all political parties, and by the voters. But people take it seriously. Based on those polls, the candidates are going to redefine their strategy toward the population, and they will just try to fill up the gap very quickly based on it. There is the popular vote, and there is the vote of what we call les grands électeurs, the electors. Apparently it's a complicated situation. You may have majority when it comes to the popular vote, that is to say, the ordinary American people going to vote on, Tuesday, and people counting votes and saying there are so many voters who sided with Obama, there are so many who sided with Romney. But a distinguishing feature is, the existence of what they call the electors, and their voice is the determining one. Whatever results come from the vote cast by the electors will be the one. So that you may have a situation where a candidate has got a majority in popular vote and yet did not have majority in the vote of the electors, and he loses. That's the case of Al Gore. This happens very infrequently. That is why actually there are what they call key states. States where you have a majority of population and where you have the largest numbers of electors.
It's now time to have a look at the news from abroad with the International News Roundup.
Jobs are coming back to the United States.
The company's hired more workers in October than at any time in the last 8 months.
Just not as fast as some people would like.
Unemployment is higher today than when Barack Obama took office.
We'll break down how a new US jobs report could impact the country's race for president.
President Barack Obama says the numbers show the nation has made real progress. Mr. Obama talked about the report during a stop in the key battleground state of Ohio.
In 2008, we were in the middle of 2 wars and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And today, our businesses have created nearly 5.5 million new jobs. And this morning, we learned that companies hired more workers in October than at any time in the last 8 months.
A very different view from Mitt Romney. The Republican challenger called the increase in the unemployment rate, quote, a sad reminder that the economy is at a virtual standstill.
He said he was going to lower the unemployment rate down to 5.2% right now. Today we learned that it's actually 7.9%, and that's 9 million jobs short of what he promised. Unemployment is higher today than when Barack Obama took office.
If you can't imagine what it's like to suffer through a massive storm, listen to Nick Camerata.
The water was so high, it was up to this part of the door. I couldn't get into the door. I went around the side of the house, and I stood on a box that was floating, and I went through the window to get it back in the house with my family.
Taking us through his house on Staten Island, the retired UPS truck driver says he and his family scrambled to an upper floor, away from water he was sure would keep rising.
Absolutely. We thought we were going to lose our lives.
Camerata, his wife, and 4 sons survived. Just about all of their first floor didn't.
Then, just as Nick and his family were recovering from the shell shock of the storm and the flooding and trying to assess all of this damage, he took another body blow.
He leads us to his side yard, where he'd set up a small engine repair business and a trailer full of tools he'd need for his new profession.
Last night, they were banging on doors. Anybody home? If you're not home, if we don't get a response from you, we're going to break your door down just to see if you're okay. They were all looters. I yelled out my window on a few occasions till I was exhausted, tired. I wake up this morning, they pushed my shed open and went through all my tools. I got nothing. Every tool that was hanging that was worth anything, all my air tools. There's nothing in the drawers but handprints.
Could these have been people who you knew, Nick?
It's sad to say, the neighborhood guys. It's
They
terrible.
knew you. You knew them.
Yeah, I knew one of them.
Well, the armed men you see forced the soldiers